Okay, welcome to the January 28th luncheon of the Southwest Florida Bankruptcy Professional Association. Luis could not be here, so he had me cover for him. Are there any announcements that need to be made?
I had a couple announcements.
Okay, you want to come on up?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to remind you, you all probably already know about this, about the 30th annual, actually it's the 40th annual ABI Pasquet seminar that's going to be March 31st to April 2nd at the beautiful Sheraton Sandkey Resort in Clearwater Beach. 12 hours of CLE credit, 3.75 hours of ethics credit. A lot of interesting speakers, including Judge Robert Gerber from the Southern District of New York, who was the judge who presided over the General Motors cases. Most of us will never have a case as large as General Motors, but it's interesting to work in an environment where something that large happens and where it gets accommodated and adjudicated. So I hope you all will consider coming up. We usually have a pretty good showing from the Fort Myers Bar, so that's great. Two other things I want to mention, and we don't have a lot of people here today, and you all are probably not the people that I need to talk about, but I just keep this in mind and go back and talk to your paralegal and support staff about this. When you file something on CMECF, if it's linked to a prior filing, make sure you link to that prior docket number. So for example, if there's an objection to claim and you file a response to the objection to claim, it should link back to the docket number of the original objection to claim. It makes it hard to find your way in the docket if there's multiple objections to claims or multiple motions for relief from stay. Just makes it a whole lot easier to track, so if you would do that. And the other thing I just wanted to remind everybody is that we have a local rule that was effective last July, I believe, that requires that you convert your documents to PDFs before you upload them. You don't scan them in. So if you're filing an exhibit with the court, that's an original document. Obviously, you have to scan that in. But if you have a Word document or a WordPerfect document or an Excel spreadsheet or something along those lines, you should be converting that to a PDF before it's uploaded with the court. That makes it text searchable, and it takes up a lot less room on the court's server if you go ahead and convert it to a PDF prior to uploading it. The other thing is that if you're using bankruptcy software, the best case software or something along those lines, you should use the function within that software to convert the document prior to uploading it, so that you're not just printing it out and scanning it in and then filing it. That makes things a whole lot easier for the trustees, and it also makes it a lot easier for the court. So, always happy to entertain any questions if anyone has any questions about anything that's going on. Yes, Mr. Zinn.
I know with what you were just speaking about, I know we should do the /S for all signatures.
Right.
What if it's an affidavit with a notary? Do you do /S for the notary as well?
I think if it was an affidavit with a notary, I would scan in the last page, probably, because that's a little more problematic. Because what are you going to do? Stamp it and then put S/S? You need the notary stamp,
Right.
usually. So I think I probably would scan that in. But in most cases, you don't need to file notarized affidavits. In most cases, you can file a declaration under penalty of perjury. So you don't always need to have an affidavit notarized. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, great. Thanks. I'm looking forward to today's presentation.
Uh-oh.
No pressure.
The speaker today is the Lee County Property Appraiser, Ken Wilkinson. He's been the property appraiser since 1980. And I thought that it was relevant to have him come in and speak because we do use the Lee County Property Appraiser values on a lot of our motions to value real property. So without further ado.
So kind of when you're synonymous with the tax man, which I will tell you, and I've been saying for years, our office doesn't do taxes. There's two parts of the formula. We do value. It's the taxing authorities, and by the way, we have 91 different taxing authorities in Lee County. Taxing authority is a body that has been given the authority by the taxpayer to set a millage rate, which is applied to the value of the properties in their jurisdiction, 1 mil equaling $1 of taxable taxes on value per thousand, and that's what funds their budget. The reason I say we don't do taxes is, of course, when there's 91 of them, they all have boards of directors and et cetera. And, you think of the county and the school boards and the cities. Well, we've got Many more than that. We've got 17 independent fire districts in this county, more than any county. We have water districts, drainage districts, lighting districts. So my point being, 91, and they have boards generally, will say it one way when we talk about property taxes. I'll be the only one that says it another way. The other way being, our responsibility is not taxes. It's a numbers game for us. Our responsibility is to value your property every year. January 1st is the assessment date, and it's even in the Constitution now because it's Ava Holmes. We forced it into the Constitution. That is the assessment date. So like the values we're working on right now, you won't even know about until August when we send the trim notice. And we're using sales from the prior 12 months. So you always want to keep that in mind in your business, that if you get the values that are on your trim notice, they're based on sales that could be a year and a half old. And we do time trend them up till January 1st, based on the market, what's going on out there. So we like to think they're accurate. But the point I really always like to make is that our office isn't responsible for taxes, because again, we tell every one of those 91 taxing authorities what new millage to apply to the new values in their jurisdiction. It's called a rollback rate. I can't hold them to it, and wouldn't be my responsibility anyhow. But don't always buy when you hear from some of the taxing authorities who should be proud of us. We held the line in taxes, we didn't raise the millage. Well, I'm here to tell you it's the biggest lie in government. It truly is. We had one year that we had, in Lee County, at the height of the market going up, and one year we had a 39% increase in 1 year in market value in this county. That's huge, 52% in Cape Coral. And many of those taxing authorities, not all, the vast majority, will tell you to be proud of them because they didn't raise the millage, they didn't raise taxes. So if you apply the same millage as the prior year, and your base has gone up 39% or 52%, guess what? It's simple math. We also like to say, certainly I do, that in truth, we don't do the values. What? Buyers and sellers do. We don't make the market. We record it, we report it, we tell those different taxing authorities what their new values are. And in the process, I think the ad valorem tax process in Florida is one of the best anywhere. And I've, over the 35 years I've been doing this, I've been fortunate enough that our Lee County has gotten the reputation that I'm called on to get involved in international and many states and how to evaluate different states and what they do. Let me ask you this, who has been in Lee County or South Florida for over 65 years? You just don't get anybody to raise their hand. The reason I say that is everybody comes from another state. There is no federal, and be happy about this, if you've used in the courts and everything, there is no federal property tax. They haven't figured it out yet. So we'll keep it quiet as long as we can. But what that means is everybody comes from another state where they usually reach their adult age, and now they're coming to Florida. Every state is different, and it's the state constitution that determines in that state. And I can tell you from my experience, Florida has the most progressive, the most, no such thing as science when you're talking about appraising, held in the highest regard anywhere in the nation and international. I was just appointed on an international committee. We're trying to bring property tax systems to other countries. I've been to 5 or 6 different countries at their dime, not yours. I enjoy going. I give myself administrative leave to do that. But we really do have that kind of a system, so I'm trying to build up in your minds, and I think you probably have maybe experienced it. And I think, and hopefully, if you work in other counties in Florida, you might have come away with the impression that we know pretty good what we're doing in our Lee County. Who uses leap.org? Who doesn't? It's amazing, isn't it? We had, I think it was 26 billion page views last year. It's a site that is just all over the world. And it came about, really, in college, which took me 9 years to get a 4-year degree. Now you know why I'm an attorney or a doctor. Couldn't last that long. 4 years in the military, etc., to get the GI Bill. What I'm saying is, I got out of college with probably one of the first IT courses. Anybody remember Cobalt or Fortran or Key Punch? You know, we don't use that stuff anymore. But it allowed me to get my hands around that kind of technology. When I took office in 1980, we really didn't have a computer. We didn't have a staff computer. But the fact that I had that experience allowed me to set goals that had a lot to do with computerization. Because my personal philosophy is, if you want to run a good office, public or private, you really only need to do 4 things. And I've talked about this for years. You hire smart people. Susan is a good example of that. You hire smart people because they make you look good. You can be dumb as a box of rocks, but if who you hire knows what they're doing, then you get them the best education you can. When I took office, there was one person in that office of about 178 to start with, who had a professional designation. I was a fee appraiser, so it helped me to hit the ground running. And now we have over 70% of the staff. That was one of my goals, to be over 50%. Smart people, train, educate them, the best IT available. That's such a key. It's unbelievable. And that's where, in all the run-up from early 80s, and we were averaging 12% a year for 12 years, starting in 1980, in overall market value increases countywide. That's 144%, not compounded. So you know what we're going through, and that's actually what the birth of safer homes was. That's a whole other story, because people were actually being forced out of their homes, in my opinion. But knowing that, those 3 things, it allowed me to where we're now at the point, I was putting resources as the markets were going up with all that workflow to make solutions through the computer as opposed to just hiring more people, which is usually what government does, make jobs. That's not our job, in my mind. Now I'm at the point where I'm within 2 people of having the same amount of people as when I took office in 1980. Pretty cool, isn't it? I don't know any other office in government that's done that. I've been up to over 130. But we built up people because we had to, then put resources into the computers. So now, as people matriculate out, retire, yes, every now and then you have to fire somebody, but I always tell them they fire themselves. Then we're at that point now. And I can tell you Lee County has the lowest cost per parcel, not only in Florida, but in North America. Those are studies that are done annually by Department of Revenue and others, not my numbers, it's the truth. And have the highest number of parcels per employee, which is efficiency. So we're very proud of the office, and you'll see some of that propaganda in there. If you want the negative stuff, pick up the news press. You always get your turn in the barrel when you're in public life, right? So it'll come again, it always does. I've been lucky lately. All right, let somebody else take it. So I have been on a 35-year mission. My overall mission has been to show the public that, you know, let me put it this way. It bothers me over the years because the public's perception of government. The public's perception of government employees has always been, and it's increasing. I've been doing this a long time. It's if you're in government, you're automatically ineffective and inefficient. And that's sad commentary, but it's not true. If you agree with one thing, there's not but one Lord. The Lord doesn't look down at birth and say, whoa, look at that reject, we'll put him in government. The Lord spread them around. They're everywhere. You ever had a problem with a banker, or maybe a mechanic, or you name it? So it's just not true, and I'm convinced the Lord didn't look down my bird and say, well, look what Mr. and Mrs. Wilkinson made. He's so screwed up, we'll really fix you, we'll elect him. But that's a public perception. A lot, I think, has to do with the scrutiny that when you're in government, particularly as a public official, you get more scrutiny. They go through my mail, and my emails aren't private, you know, any of this stuff. So have some bad people, but no more than any other profession. That's, again, my opinion. That fourth thing I started to mention, smart people, train and educate them, IT. Fourth thing is, get out of their way. Don't micromanage. I remember when I was in school, the first time I went to about 4 colleges. First one was at Stetson. I worked in a steakhouse. My family didn't have money, so I had to work my way through school. And his management style was he'd have a management meeting, or employees, and he'd throw dishes, scream and holler. And, is that the way it's going to be? But you don't have to be like that. Although we've all worked for him, I think. Let's do the live. We just go through this a little bit and give you more the duties and responsibilities of the appraiser's office. And I'll leave plenty of time for questions. I think you probably have to do with bankruptcy, something like that. Is that what you're interested in? You liked our office for a while, didn't you? We had more in the whole country. Right? Lee County. We lead way up and on the way down, it seems. I never figured out why. Just an annual report. What are the duties and responsibilities? Primarily, every year, Florida has the best process. Again, I'm prejudiced, but I have taught assessment administration early in my career. And whenever I would teach in a different state, I would teach their either elected or appointed appraisers. And I'd always contact them. It's a week course with an examination. Bring with you the thing you're most proud of in your office. A lot of that ended up in Lee County. It was just, I thought, a pretty neat way to do it. And during that week, I'd have them brag on what they've really instituted. Man, I like that. I like that one down. Take it back to the office. But states are so different. Georgia, I think they reappraise every 12 years. Now, if you were an appraiser in Georgia, you're going to go out there and tell that farmer holding that shotgun what his property's gone up in the last 12 years? It's a short term for elected appraiser. Most states are appointed. Florida's elected, and I truly believe in that. It's accountability, but more importantly, it takes the politics out of the process. If I were beholden just to the county manager, most of you have been here through Y2K, right? I couldn't have done, our office couldn't have done what we did with Y2K. If you weren't here, we fixed it when they were going to spend like $16 million or something, and I did for $702,000. Trust me, still would have fired me if I were appointed. But the fact that we're separately elected, we have accountability for what we do, but it takes the politics out, because if our appointed, can't just be our board of 5 commissioners. If one of them comes, hey, don't reappraise my area. I'm up for re-election. I want to improve your budget. It happens in a lot of states where they're appointed. Michigan has over, I think it's 2,300 assessors, they call them. We're bigger than Michigan. We have 67, one for each county. But in most states in North, they're called assessors too, by the way, not appraisers. We got rid of that word because we don't assess taxes, we appraise property. I always find these semantics interesting. But in that sense, why when it's different, you have so many, none of these little Massachusetts, 1,800, none of those jurisdictions have the kind of resources that we have in Lee County to do the kind of stuff that we're getting done. Example, LEPA. When I took office, there was no such thing as electronic access to public records because we didn't have it and they didn't address it in the statutes. Myself, Manatee County appraiser, he's since deceased, so I take credit for it. We went to Tallahassee and got Pat Neal to put in he was appropriations chairman. I love the theater up there. I was just up last week. And we were able to get a train bill going, and that allowed property appraisers in Florida to have electronic access to public records. That's what the issue was. But at the same time, I was able to tack on there that only the property appraiser's office could sell maps. That has generated a revenue stream for my office that goes to general fund after I offset all my costs, salaries, etc., equipment, whatever. And that's been a great boom for us. Prior to that statute, there was 12 maps by 12 different departments. Zoning, code enforcement, you name it. If you wanted all those different layers, you had to go to each one and pay separately. And so there's 12 people, right, working with the public. So LaVon Wisher, those of you who remember LaVon, she's a fantastic person. I love her. I think she really caused me to think about, I did the right thing getting into government. And we worked very, very well together. But we were able to interlocal agreement that if you want these maps, you can come one stop to our shop. You can call in if you want. We have a full service of customer service, and you can get it at home. But if you want us to do it, we'll write the program for it. We'll charge you, but it's very nominal, only my hard costs plus salaries. We work that in there too. Just trying to give you the idea of how much more progressive we are in Florida, in my opinion, Lee County. So in this handout here, again, a couple things you may not know. Lee County is the 4th largest county of 67 in separate ownerships of real estate. It's Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, then Lee. Initially because of Cape Coral, Lehigh, etc. We're supposed to visit every property. It was within 3 years. Now it's 5 years. We got the law changed because of the technology of our photography and everything. But I remember a judge, I think it was, I was testifying, he said, well, have you seen these properties? I said, Your Honor, every time I fly over, coming from Tallahassee or something, we bank that way. I said, there's Cape Coral. And as you know where you land, and you swing this way, I said, there's Lehigh. I said, at least I can check off all the vacant lots, right? Because they didn't change. That's a joke, of course. Imagine this, in 1980, the total tax roll in Lee County, if you want to spend one check, was $4.5 billion. Well, at the height of the market, we had $118 billion. That would be January of 07, by the way. Imagine that. Then we lost 48% of the market in 3 years, almost half. That's when you people will come in, right? And I'm sure it's worked for you. A couple other things, and then we'll open up for questions. So you might be wondering, well, how are we funded? If the county commission doesn't approve our budget, etc., Department of Revenue approves our budget. We like that because they have staff that knows what it takes, and they have supervisory power over the appraisers, and they write the rules and regulations. Department of Revenue does, etc. One thing I don't like about them is that name, Department of Revenue, because that's why they fought me in Saber Homes and some other things, because they saw that as lost revenue. I saw it as tax saving, but it's all a matter of semantics, right? Or what your head's at. But they approve our budget, but then the way it's funded is, remember those 91 different taxing authorities that can set a millage rate? Well, if this Lehigh lighting district gets 1% of the total ad valorem take, they fund my budget 1%. If the commission is 25%, we bill them quarterly, 25% of our budget. That's how that works. And it's a good system. Plus, if you look down here, you'll see because of the revenue streams we have been able to develop over the years, that we're actually beyond the budget. We've created revenue that we end up returning on average around $1 million a year back to general fund, even though we do the work and everything. But it works out well. It makes my budget per parcel look very good. That's one of the reasons why I'm number one in the country. And the proof of that is these are the latest DOR statistics listing the top 10 counties, and you can see there that now this is 2 years old, 96, I'm actually down to 81 full-time employees. And you can see the price, number of parcels per position, over 6,000. One is just barely over 4,000, two of them. So I mean, we're really proud of what we do in that relationship. My other appraisers may not be as proud as I am, but that goes with the territory. And as I mentioned, page views for the year of 2014 on LIPA, 30,363,286. County Property Appraiser's website, these are being used all over the world now. I have people telling me, they say, Cam, I don't have to bring the board of directors anymore. If we're a bank holding company and we're looking for a site, we just do it through the phone. And they get into your website, and we talk through the website. They don't look at all the expense they save by not having to bring all these people in there. So these things are really gotten popular. And I think you realize, or should, statistics will tell you that 80% of local government decisions are based on positions on Earth. Think about it, zoning, code enforcement. We do all the base maps. 80% of decisions of local government are based on positions on Earth. Our office originates all that. We gather that data. That's why it's very important that the property appraiser's office be in control of that data. It's my opinion. And I made a deal with Levon years ago. We have an interlocal agreement that not only are we the only place you can pay for those maps, and it's a benefit to everybody, I think. At the same time, when you have questions, what's more important, what we did is these are called GIS, Geographical Information System. That's the whole future is GIS now. Everywhere it's being used. And then the problem in many jurisdictions, if the appraiser doesn't control it, somebody's got to be in charge. Usually when it's a county commissioner or city council or something like that, it gets lost in the weeds because they have so many different departments. My being in charge, because we developed the base data, and I have an arrangement in a local agreement with zoning, code enforcement, or whatever. If they don't keep their data within a couple of weeks, I unplug them. See, I can't change their data. They can't change mine. When they update their data, it updates ours, and vice versa. So everybody has access to it, but I have control of it, which allows it, I think, to work better because one person's in charge. That's, I don't want to be in charge of everything, but I like that one because data is the most important thing to us. A couple of new things on our website, and I'll open up for questions. There's not another office in government, local, state, or federal, that has more accountability than your local property appraiser's office. There's no other office in government, local, state, or federal, that nails to you every year what we're going to do to you. It's called a trim millage. By the way, trim stands for truth and millage. It doesn't stand for truth and assessments. We do the value, they do the taxes. But we send you a personal letter and tell you, based on the prior 12 months market activity, after analyzing the market, recording it and reporting it to these taxing authorities, then we send you an individual letter on every piece of property that you may own. In the whole county, we're talking, almost $750,000. And we tell you what we did to you based on our professional opinion what that property's worth and what exemptions apply, this and that, and give you 25 days to file a formal petition. We prefer you talk to us first. But I don't know any other government that does that. And if we can't resolve it, if somebody calls us and says, you have us at 2,000 living square feet, we only got 1,000, that's easy, I can do that all year long. We'll go out there and we'll measure it. You can't just take their word for it or I get all kinds of inquiries. And you have to verify it. It's interesting, in 35 years, I've yet to have anybody call me during that time and tell me the values are too low. Wouldn't you think just common sense would sort of fall 50-50, wouldn't it? No, but that's human nature, isn't it? You guys know that one. A couple of things that we've added. If you don't like the picture of your house, this came up in senior staff meeting. There's 4 of us sitting senior staff. Every Thursday, I'll be at 3 today because I wasn't sure if I'd get back there by 2. And one of Jim Sharon came up with it. Oh, I was asking him I said, these smartphones, mine didn't come with smart operators, so I'm kind of out of it. That was funny too. So now, if you don't like the picture of your home from the street, take your smartphone, take a picture, send it to us. We have a program. We don't want people in it, so if you're a real estate agent, you can't be pounding your for sale sign out. We don't really want license plates. We don't want humans. But send it to us. If it closes and all those criteria, it'll be out there on the website. I think that's pretty cool. It saves me a ton of money. Because then every 5 years, we're supposed to have those photos out there. Now, we get them from the sky, but not the front, but now we're doing it that way. As well, the latest thing we did for this year, which I'm really finding neat, the thing you got to try to convince the public, since you're in government, and everybody's suspicious of government, remember those idiots, they all put us in there, that we're not hiding anything. So now you go on our website, put in your property or anybody's property, and if you remember, on a property search, you'll have like 4 things over here on the right, your trim notice, I don't know if the tax bill is there, aerial viewer is, and we've added a new thing, it's called Comper. Just click on that Comper, and whatever property you put in there, it will bring up all the sales that we used in valuing your property. Isn't that going to help you in your work, maybe? Now, here's probably the most question, the largest number of questions you'd have in your work is how well can you rely on our values, right? Okay. Let me explain it this way. Florida statutes, because there's a big difference between mass appraising and fee appraisal. I was a fee appraiser. A fee appraisal, you'll get it a specific day and time. And that locks it in, that's the day, and you use the sales at that time. Mass appraising, we have an annual clock, and we use comps, of course, but we're a fee appraiser, it's right on that date. Ours can be a year and a half behind the market. As well, when we do our analysis of the sales, whereas we don't just get a sale in and go, that's a good sale. We've had as many as 80,000 sales in a year. We're around 60,000 now, I think. What I'm saying is when we get a sale in, we just don't throw it in the hopper. We have the county subdivided into thousands of neighborhoods. I call them hoppers. Every little neighborhood has this where we put in, once we qualify to sale, about 80% are good sales. They're not bank sales, believe it or not. Family to family, bankruptcy sale, that kind of stuff. So once any of those you have to push aside. So the qualified sales get put in these neighborhoods. And you have subdivisions. Whiskey Creek is a neighborhood. But within Whiskey Creek, we may have 20 or 30 different neighborhoods. Because you wouldn't want to use a sale on a wet lot, meaning it has river access or whatever kind of access, but it's on water, for a dry sale. So we group them that way so they're comparable as they come in, particularly if they're in the same neighborhood and they have the same characteristics of the property. But in our analyzing the sales, we have an authority in the statute here. I will always quote the statute because I know if I'm wrong, people usually won't know. But if I quote it now, you might know, but it's 197.02 parent 1, I think. But it's close. And what that gives the property appraiser, it's called the first and eighth criteria. We have 8 things we have to look at for sale. Number 1 is an arm's length transaction. We all know the definition of that. Was there non-ad valorem assets in it? Furniture and fixtures. You'd be surprised at the number of condo sales, there might be a boat. But we would have to take that out of that sale before we could use it because that's not ad valorem. Different things. We look at every one of the sales to determine which pot they go in. Qualified sales in 06. There'd be other reasons, other codes that we put on if it's not a qualified sale. But keeping in mind, our objective, certainly my philosophy, is I want to be as conservative as I can be and still get and apply it to all properties to get an approved tax roll in Tallahassee. There are some of us, meaning appraisers, maybe because they came from county commissioners or they came from those that spend it, that their philosophy is they're there to raise money for government. That's not my philosophy. My philosophy is to appraise property as conservatively as I can, equally across the board on all properties, and still get an approved tax roll, because I see it as tax saving. If they have another mindset, they see there's more money they can spend. That's just, and they know I talk this way, because they remind me. I think let's let's go with that. You have some specific questions, or, yes, ma'am?
I
Oh, it's
have-
about 15% is adjustment on property sales, right?
I have a couple of questions. One is probably pretty basic. The first is on these maps you're talking about. What is the data that's included in the maps and what are the maps used for? That's number one. And number two, before I forget it, is what are you doing different in Lee County that other county property appraisers are not doing so that their costs are so much higher than yours?
It's not so much what they're not doing, it's how they're allocating their resources. We all have to come up with improved tax law. And some have different philosophies, some think, which government has always fallen into, but it's changing, is more people, more money. Well, my goal is not to have more people because so much of my time is spent with personnel problems. The fewer people I have, easier my job is, number one. And it's how they apply their resources. And I mean that. Some of the smaller counties don't have the kind of resources we have. You know, they have 10,000 parcels. I got 650,000. So they don't have the budget in their property
But I'm
poor
looking
counties.
at the counties you
Oh,
listed
yeah,
here, and these
yeah.
are not the smaller counties.
Oh, no, that's the top 10 counties.
Right.
Yeah. Be truthful, I think it's my philosophy. I think people find it difficult, and we all do it if we're in management positions, to say no. I can do it. You know, when a supervisor comes in and says, well, we're losing so-and-so, and you know, like it's a given that we'll find a replacement. I said, well, let's look at it this way. And so much more of a reason because of where we put our resources, not in people, but in computer, and hiring those smart people that know how to run. That has made the biggest difference in my life.
So a lot is due to just IT and using more.
I think it's management
Uh-huh.
overall. And there's others that have the same philosophy. They may not be as bold or outspoken as I can be, put it that way. And the first question?
The data in the maps. What is the data that's
The data
in
is
the maps?
any data that's known.
Like what kinds of data?
Well, let me put it this way. When you get off on the fourth floor of my office, there's a window straight across from you. That's data, map sales, etc. And you can just tell them what you want, and they will tell you if it's available.
What kind of things would
Zoning,
you?
code enforcement, water districts, fire hydrants. Unbelievable. We are always thirsty for more data, and we will exchange data with them to allow them into our system. We have interlocal agreements with the different cities, not all of them. And often they say, well, give it to us. I said, well, you know, it's not going to work on your end because you don't have that level of sophistication that we can really talk to each other. But you need to get there so we can do this. We're the only jurisdiction I know, we get a copy of every plan that's pulled in Lee County. And we digitize it into the computer so that they're positionally correct on the earth. That has solved a lot of problems for code enforcement, all these different people, because they can look at the map and they can measure, you know, yeah, you know, somebody's calling on the phone and said, yeah, it's there. Because we digitize it again. And we've gone back in history of all the plans in this county that were still around. So we've got that in. It's a high technology.
Like every house that's ever been built, you've got the plan?
We've gone, if they were still there,
Yeah.
we've got it. Took us a few years. It's fun. I don't have to do the actual work. But I hire those people. Yeah. That 15% I was talking about, that's how we can adjust sales. Some properties benefit and others don't. But see, I have to justify the Department of Revenue every year that 15%. Because they are still called Department of Revenue. So at times they take a run at us and say, well, no, it's 10%. I said, well, I'll prove it's 15. You want me to try to prove it's 20? No, we're good.
No, yeah.
Yes.
I don't understand what you mean.
Okay, I take a sale of the property.
Okay, and then you
I can adjust that sale.
Down 15%.
Not always 15, but that's on the average. That's what we can get approved in Tallahassee.
Yeah, because I was going to say, and that was
Yeah.
what I was going to ask you
Mhm.
is your assessment is not dollar for dollar.
No.
What the last,
Right.
what the
Yeah,
numbers
it's not the
would
sale
be.
of the property, even
Yes.
though we get lucky and there's a sale right there, but we use all comparable sales. So it's not just one sale that becomes that property, we don't look at any other. We use all the comparable sales.
But you don't assess what the actual resale would have been, that I mean, you don't, for example, house.
We don't,
sells-
I don't.
House sells for $425,000
Mhm.
and it lasts so.
Yeah, I usually don't care what it sells for, because we'll build our appraisal using modeling, AVMs, automated valuation models. This is the newest technology now. That is whiz bang. I've been in a couple foreign countries trying to explain it to them and stuff, and other jurisdictions come to us. And what it is now the only jurisdictions that can really do this and do it well, you have to have a large jurisdiction. It's all based on number of sales. And you have to have clean data. So we've been spending 7 years now cleaning our data, so that now we use 4 years of data to come up with 1 year's value. Time adjust them all. What it does, it allows you to have that many sales that I can have this group of sales here that are identical with this group of sales here, except this has a fireplace and these don't. I can tell you the value that fireplace adds to that property.
But it's not necessarily correlated to the actual fair market value
Correct.
of a particular property.
Right.
It's an average value
It's
based
a mass,
on,
it's a mass
like,
appraisal
number-
system.
Like numbers of bedrooms.
I wish
number
I
of-
could do 650,000 fee appraisals a year. I'd be very wealthy. Because I'd be back in private industry. You know what I'm saying? But
So
no,
it's really, if we look at
Yeah.
a bill, a tax bill, or
Yeah.
a property appraiser, a trim notice that gives you a number, that is not truly the fair market value of that particular property.
I will tell you, it's a fair market value of that particular property based on all the sales of comparable properties in that neighborhood, in that area, or the closest neighborhood. And it's a machination of the data. We're a numbers office, and we've adjusted for all the different things that could be as an ingredient in there.
I'm
I
not
can't
complaining
explain. No,
because it's usually lower.
Oh, I want lower.
But I understand.
As low as I can get it, and
I
still
know,
get an
'cause
approved
it's
tax
quite-
bill.
it's generally-
Because then you're not calling me so much.
I was going to say, because what I see is that the numbers are historically substantially lower than the true,
Sure.
quote, fair market
Yeah.
value of the property.
Yeah, if you want a fair market value, you go out and get a fee appraisal, because it's going to be that day
Okay.
that you're getting it, not a year and a half after the data we've used. You follow me? Yeah, I think we do. But we can adjust the sales on average about 15%.
So even if you had a true fair market
Yeah.
value, you could go down 50%
Yeah.
regardless.
We adjust the sale before we use it in that compilation of sales.
Okay.
I have a question. On your website, where it lists the sales for particular house, some sales are qualified sales, some are done.
Right.
So all it means is that this sale, you're not used to value all of the other properties.
Right, it could be a consideration of $10. It could be father to father and son.
Okay, okay.
It could be,
It doesn't mean the sale didn't happen, it
what you really
happened.
want to look for is 06.
Okay,
06 is your qualified sale. Then they'll have other codes. A code could be multiple parcels in one sale. You know, there's a whole lot of myriad of them. But,
are you looking at the deeds?
Yes.
Whether the deed references a right
Yes.
parcel and legal description? and
sure, every deed we get in daily, because we take it off the website of the clerk. So theoretically, the day they record it, and they work it for their purposes, we get it the next day, because we view their website. We bring in the deeds, and we put them through our own, we've written a program, which will catch a good 80%. I forget the name of it now, we have anachronism for everything. And it's taken us a few years to perfect it, but it sure cuts down on human touching it. Because the majority of the sales, you can categorize it. You know, so boom, it goes right through. You know, joint tenants, this, that. So the computer looks at all of them. And then any that it doesn't fit into, then we have our clerks look at it to see why. But we do check for things. Now, attorneys can get very upset with us. Not that that ever happens. Because sometimes, and see, we're not required to do this as far as, let's say, somebody, they call it scribes when they do it or something like that. They record it and there may be an error in it. Well, attorneys don't like anybody to point out their errors. And I've had some get pretty tight. And I've had them eventually say, well, yeah, you might be right. I mean, they had the wrong name. This person don't own that property, but it's on the deed. I think you want us to tell you that, but just some get the backsell.
And then you have the description of the property, the address, and then this basic legal description or whatever it is. And then, you look in the deed to get the full legal description. So this basic description, legal description.
Yeah, 3 lines normally.
It's like for you basically
Yeah.
to codify the
Yeah,
property.
in fact, the staff really took 2-3 years to convince me we needed to do this. We're adding folio numbers now. We're keeping the strap numbers. They wanted to get rid of the strap numbers, but they were right. It took them a while to convince me because things have split so much around the county, the Capes, Lehigh, that we really need a folio number, but I'm keeping the strap number because it's a geographical locator. Folio number can often mean the next number, where a strap is section, township, range, area, parcel. You can find it. Well, 35 years ago, yeah, you could find it, but it's been so subdivided in different things, and they're using header numbers over here, and so we've added a folio number. Some of my realtors and appraisers aren't real happy about that. I said, well, you need to learn the folio number then, because
That's gonna be an arbitrary number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if Susan could tell how we did it. I don't remember how we do it. I don't either. But I don't have to know. They're smart people. You got more questions? Bring them on. It's your chance.
A fee appraisal, I mean, is going to use 3 or 4 comparables. Are you saying
Usually
use
3.
100 comparables?
Oh,
And
good.
Averaging them out?
Usually won't be that many for any one house. But oh yeah, we can many. And like I say, go on the website, hit that comper.
Yes.
It will pull up a map, and it will color code the subject and all the sales that we used in our analysis.
So what do you think is more accurate?
Oh yeah.
Because it's 3 or 4 arbitrary parcels they're pulling from.
I think the more data you have, don't get me wrong, if you're in a neighborhood and you're a fee appraiser, and on that date, and within a week, you had 3 sales down the block, you'd have-
Really?
and they're not adjusting theirs for cost of sales, cost of financing, or stuff like that.
And your appraisals are using data that may be in August,
Mhm.
when you're reporting them in your
Right.
term notices.
Yeah.
They-
Those could have been a year ago,
So
August,
it could be a year and a half old.
as much as a year and a half.
Okay.
Yes,
So-
sir.
So if we wanted to have somebody from your office testify.
No,
We're bringing it down.
you're driving us nuts. Do you know? No. Oh, I'm fighting with the judges. Some
I
judges.
had someone from an appraiser's office testify. I was stunned. Somebody?
Look, these are our records. We will attest to them. Don't take my people off the line that are working, making a lot more money, to send them over there to wait to testify. It's gotten to be a problem, hasn't it, Susan? And she knows, he's my paralegal. John Renner is our attorney, but he's retired, but John was so good, we worked out a deal. He's still working for me, but on an hourly basis. But Susan's there full time. Sincerely, it becomes a problem because we're always more and more being asked to come in and look, send us something. We will certify these are what our records show. And I'm only going to testify these are what our records show. I mean, it's getting bad. I know you all see it a different way, but I got to manage that office and get people to get the job done. Yes.
A fee appraisal is several pages long and uses the different approaches. Do you have something that we can print out that's something similar to that and present it as an appraisal?
That'd be interesting. What we do is we're required to, one of those first and 8 criteria is we have to use all 3 approaches of value in our analysis. Obviously, a condominium is not sold on the income approach or the cost approach. But we consider all 3 because if we do end up in court, we have to say we considered all 3, right? Because when we are challenged by the owner, that's what we go through a semi-court process, the value adjustment board. In there, we take with us as if we did a fee appraisal.
Okay. but there's nothing.
all three approaches to show that we consider them, because you have to consider them, even though you don't use them.
But there's nothing that we can get from your office to send to a trustee or something.
I don't know how, you could always probably put in writing and ask for something, we would charge you for it.
But truthfully, the trustee would take that.
Probably not.
Especially based on, no offense, but, because it's, as Ken just said, it's an adjusted value,
It's
it's
a
not
mass
necessarily
appraisal.
on that property, it's not taking into consideration the specific transactions on the property, it's at least probably 15% at minimum adjusted below.
And let me ask you this question.
Mhm.
If a house sold today for $800,000, let's just say, your appraised value is not necessarily going to be $800,000, because what I heard you say.
I doubt
you're
it'll
not-
ever be the exact sale amount, I doubt
Okay.
ever.
Right, so
We'll
the-
adjust it for cost sales, cost of
So
finance,
the
we'll use
definition-
other sales.
Right, so the definition of fair market value, when a
Mhm.
willing buyer will pay a willing,
Right.
will pay a willing seller, with
Mhm.
either of them under duress, to me, that says the value of the property on this day, the
Right.
closing sale was $800,000. But your valuation.
What I would
is
tell you in
$700,000.
answering that question, if I had to, I would say, on January 1st of that tax year, that, in our opinion, is what your property is worth. We just use more data to get to it.
Right,
And we have a conservative approach. But you could factor that back in and you'd be there on that specific day. Then you can use your own time factors if you wanted to. We have fun. I enjoy this. I'm still liking it. I've got 9 terms and I want one more, so you might get a letter, you don't know. Anybody else?
When do you roll your comps in January of each year? You said that you go, when you go on your site,
Yeah.
and you want to see the
Well,
sales.
that gets a little hairy. Those, the value you see out there, until they're certified, is a working file. And we run into a couple small controversies with some taxpayers. They want me to put the values out but they change hundreds of times, so I don't want to do that. I don't have to do it. We will keep last year's values out there. And a lot of the data that as it comes through, we'll put out there, the sale, and stuff like that.
The sales as they happen, or only annually?
I only have to certify that those are the final values when the tax roll is approved, usually around November, it seems from DOR.
Yeah, but I don't know if you're understanding my question.
probably not.
I'm not understanding your answer. When a sale takes place, how long does it take to get into your file that shows on your website?
Okay.
The comps.
The comps won't show yet on the comper.
Right.
Yes, they'll be after
When
the
do they update those
Well,
comps
yeah,
on
when
the
Yeah, the comper sales are updated all the time.
on the website?
Yeah, but they would have not been the ones we probably used for the
Okay,
value
so
for
they're-
last year.
So they're
The
putting.
comps will be in there, yeah, current comps as they sell.
Okay.
Is that
that's
what you mean?
the
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, because I was getting confused, which is not all that hard sometimes. All right, well, I appreciate your attendance and your... And don't forget, I get copyrights on that.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkinson. I announced previously the Dulutri chili cook-off, and
Yeah.
Mr. Dulutri's here, so.
Thank you,
Come
Adrian.
up and say a few
Just 5 minutes. Anybody here, hey kids? Anybody here need new clients? I'm sponsoring a chili cook-off for a charity, Southwest Florida Lawyers Helping Children, raising money, but most importantly, we're gonna have it at 6 Ben's Harley-Davidson. Massive place. Hundreds of people, exposure, firm to, very little cost. Anybody like paying the Yellow Pages? Or other advertisements like your firm? Don't need new clients, Diane? And then, oh, by the way, if you like having, if your employees, if you think your employees would like to do something with you outside, maybe build a little rapport, happier employees, more productivity, it's all here. The only thing you do, if you don't want to compete, because you're afraid to lose to me, that's fine. I plan on willing. So anybody think they can make a better chili than me, Richard? No?
I think you're the best cheerleader.
Good man. Then show up to eat it. Show up to either you can compete or you can consume. Your choice.
Where do you make chili, in there or at home in
If Steve Martin doesn't show up at this, I'm going to come to your place in Cape Coral.
Believe me, Steven is practicing already.
All right, that's what I like to hear, because Steve gets it. Steve understands this is a lot more about making chili. It's about growing your law firm, promoting your law firm, marketing your law firm, but not paying to advertise it. Hundreds of people to expose your firm to. All you got to do is make a pot of chili. You might win, huh?
And you're helping a good cause.
And you're helping a great cause. March 19th, excuse me, we had to move the date because of something I couldn't control, which is scary. But March 20th is a new date, 6 Ben's Harley Davidson. You just might have a good time. Thanks a lot. If you want a flyer, they're right here.
All right, thank you very much.